So I am so grateful to be here today. I love Austin Center for Spiritual Living, and we're going to be talking about the standing stones. And the photograph I used is a picture of a wall on the Incan Trail in Peru, because we're talking this month about speaking truth to circumstances and how circumstances can seem very real. And I want to talk about that because we are actually having that experience, but we tend to build walls of limitation, walls of fear, walls that try to keep us safe from the uncertainty. And Ernest Holmes reminds us to think independently of any existing circumstance. He's not talking about a spiritual bypass, but what he's saying is that we must enter the absolute. And the only way that we can enter the absolute is in the present moment and allowing ourselves to be present to what we're experiencing, walking and talking with spirit. Also, Reverend Mary's meditation is perfect if you can extract that and every day sit in that consciousness and asking, what is being called forth in this moment? What we understand is that spirit is forever taking form, all right? It's impermanent. Life is impermanent. Change is constantly happening. And I want to talk about standing stones in regard to our personal standing stones and collective. But we're reminded that we are having these experiences because we're spirit in this human realm. And we don't want to deny the experience. We want to be present, which is why I picked that Frank Ostaszewski reading, because he really invites us into the present moment, that no matter what is in front of us or what we're in the midst of, we don't reject it or accept it. We're present to it. And then what the shift happens to allow divine wisdom to flow, we tap into that higher awareness, the absolute consciousness that is not separate, but is that clear, pristine knowingness that this too shall pass. And also, what do I need to know to listen to what is happening? Collectively, we're seeing a lot that's happening out in the world, social justice issues that are tearing us apart. And we're reminded by Jesus that he says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall never pass away. And that's the truth that we're talking about, the Christ consciousness, that we speak to these circumstances from the eternal knowingness, that we don't get caught up in the condition, even though we experience mindfully what we're feeling. The emotions are valid, the feelings are valid. But once I'm able to allow that to move through is to ask the question, what do I need to know in this moment? What are these standing stones seeking to reveal to me in your life, in my life? It's interesting because I just had a Facebook conversation with a friend of mine who had back surgery in April, and she had complications from that surgery, and she has been in intense rehab. There was a point that we weren't quite sure if she was going to make it. All right. So speaking truth to condition, I first had to bear witness to her suffering. I had to bear witness to her pain, to the infections that were arising, to the fear, the grief of the life that she had because she's not certain what's arriving. And a friend of mine, we went to Arkansas just to pray her up, and she had like a series of people coming in to hold that truth for her, because see, we could see clearly that there was no wall, but she was in the midst of her experience. We had to bear witness to that, because the walls that were appearing were the medical professionals saying you'll never get well, the doubts in her own mind, in her heart, the fears that are natural in this human experience. We stood in that high watch, that consciousness of the power of the presence that is God, that is her wholeness, strength, vitality. And so this morning we were exchanging where she moved from the hospital to rehab, and somehow on her experience, there was some medical opinions that she was in disagreement with. And I invited her to allow me to hold her in that truth of her beingness, to not create those walls that I will never get out of here. I will never heal. That's a natural reaction to an experience that you are having. Because Frank Ostaszewski also says, he goes, I cannot be free if I'm rejecting any part of my experience. So I'm just bearing witness to her emotions, allowing her to experience what she's experienced. But I have seen a shift in her because we've been holding the high watch for her, that circumstance that is difficult and painful and causing such grief and causing such change in the last several months, that we can stand in her spiritual truth. We can enter the absolute. And so in our individual life, We align in consciousness. We bear witness to our experience. So if you've ever lost a job or lost a loved one, or there's the uncertainty of the financial situation in the world, there's the social justice issues that are rising, there's this tug of war between our human experience and then anchoring in our spiritual practice to bring forth that understanding that beyond all of these circumstances, there's only the presence of God. And that's love that's going to be revealed in this moment, love that's going to heal all that. So I bear witness to the experience. And Ernest Holmes says, one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. So I am going within in order to arrive at the awareness that's seeking to reveal itself in any situation so that I don't create these standing stones that stop me from experiencing life to the fullest, that stop me from creating a new path, that stops me from the race consciousness that says, well, you're this age or you're that, you're female or whatever the circumstance is that's trying to create a block. And then I can understand that these stones have something to tell me. There's a story from Roshi Joan Halifax. She was at Plum Village, Thich Nhat Hanh's retreat center in France. And this little boy came up to her and he goes, I hear that you can talk to the stones. And she goes, well, how do you know that? And he goes, the stones told me so. And I love that he could actually talk to the stones. And the reality is these stones of condition, we can listen to what the wisdom is seeking to reveal, but we must go within in prayer. We must connect in that divine strength. We must invite that awareness to inhabit a new way of being. So we bear witness and we listen. Unity minister Jane Simmons shares the idea of transition and transformation, and she uses the analogy that you find yourself swimming in the ocean and suddenly a riptide takes you out and you're battling against the riptide, which I actually experienced when I was 18 down in Padre Island. So that's a very frightening experience. And after a long struggle, she says, you finally see these swimmers that are coming to you and they support you. And then you get back to shore and you're relieved. So she says that's transition, the long, slow struggle to make things better. She says transformation is that you suddenly wake up, realizing you were in your bed dreaming, you're completely dry, and you were never in any real danger. So transformation comes not through the struggle, she says, and extreme effort and heroics on our part. It comes from connecting within to that deep, often unconscious truth of our beingness. And transition can improve the situation, but transformation radically alters us at our core. So individually and collectively, we're seeing this radical call to transformation, that we bear witness to the experience. We don't deny it. But in order to have true transformation, we must go within in prayer, in visioning, in listening to the truth. And only in that way will that revelation of what the next step is, the connection we need to make, the listening that needs to happen to our own hearts and to each other is available. So I was on YouTube and there was this gentleman, David Williamson, African-American, who shared his story of a near-death experience. And he was dying of a heart attack that was brought on by hypertension from years of intense activism for his community. So first of all, we bear witness to inequity. We bear witness to suffering. We bear witness to the violence that's happening. We bear witness to the ignorance, what we call ignorance, because people or myself were not awakened and speaking from our spiritual truth. And what happened to him in this near-death experience, he's literally rising out. He's seen his body. He's seen this woman like worried about him. But as he was on the other side, he says he began to realize we are all one, while he was experiencing himself as a glowing orb of light, and that he learned that no experience in this life is ever lost or wasted. And David now shares how the experience transformed the way he views life and how he changed the way he relates to other people. And he says, we are creating our next life in this moment with our attention. Our next life is in every moment. And so he came back with that message that, yes, that we stand for freedom for all. We stand in the name of love for all, and we meet these circumstances, but he's inviting us now because of his experience of that deep universal presence that we call God, that is love, to reveal itself in every situation. We're seeing it with politics. We're seeing it with, the minister that, did the outline for this talk was talking about when she was writing it, it was like Roe versus Wade was present. There were people 50 years ago that cheered the decision and people that cried. She goes, and now the people that cried are cheering and the people that cheered are crying, and that there's this constant battle, and we're not meeting each other in the present moment to listen. And what David is inviting us is that through social justice activism, or just in your own life, to meet it with love, to meet each other even when we disagree. And how do we come together in that higher consciousness, creating a third way of being that is supportive of each other? I'm not saying that it's easy. It's a practice. And remember, Frank Ostasecki said that clear comprehension illuminates how our relationship to our experience can either cause suffering or cultivate wisdom. So when I have a human reaction, I'm in the difficult emotions, I must bear witness to that, but then I must listen to that perception of a standing stone and ask, what do I need to know in this moment? What is seeking to reveal in this moment? Like the life visioning process, what do I need to become or embrace? What is the highest vision in this situation for the well-being of all? And to tap into that place of love as our strength, instead of this continued fighting and separation and perceptions and projections. And when we begin to understand, as David Williamson had that experience of being that orb of light, that he's in this human body, but he's more than this. The body is not who we are. The mind is not who we are. It's spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And how can we meet these personal and collective standing stones? So that deep wisdom that we cultivate through that present moment awareness, that we enter the situation in principle, that we enter that situation in truth, that we enter that situation anchored in beauty and love, grace and harmony, power that is the power of God, not the power of ego, because we're seeing too many bites of the ego, and we're not coming together in community and consciousness to create the change that is seeking to reveal itself to a higher level of being. So Ernest Holmes invites us to meditate on the perfect life. Not that I'm perfect, meaning, that perfection syndrome that, I don't know about you, but I suffered through that as a child and nobody imposed that on it but myself. But that he says to daily meditate on the perfect life, and to daily embody the great idea is a royal road to freedom. That divine idea that my life is perfect, whole, and complete, that I am the expression of love, I am the expression of joy, I am the expression of peace. And that as we listen to that which is greater, seeking to reveal itself in the situation, we become conscious co-creators through the oneness of life, expressing in, through, and as each one of us. And that's called surrender. And the ego doesn't like to surrender. The ego wants to be right. Now, there are some very challenging situations, and the invitation is not to say right or wrong, but the invitation is to not reject or accept. It's to be present to what is. And when we look at situations, is love present in that situation? No. So what is the one way that we can bring forth love? Is joy present in the violence? No. Is peace present? No. So how can I invoke that in my personal life and radiate that into the collective field? And how can I meet people in the moment? And that instead of all of this separation and projection and antagonism that we see, that we put our swords and our shields down and we listen. We listened to the stones. We listen to each other beneath the stories of the ego. Like, what's the gift seeking to reveal? Yes, there would not be change if we didn't take a stand. Yes, in all of our cultural movements, it took people coming together to create change. What we're being invited to in this new paradigm that's seeking to reveal and arrive is that we do it consciously. that we meet each other in the present moment, that we understand that the divine is showing up in, through, and as each one of us, that we let go of the old paradigms that have kept us in these boxes of separation. And then we meet those standing stones and we see that they're not real. They dissolve. I mean, think about something in your own life that you've created a wall that limited you, that stopped you. What were the thoughts, or whose voice did you hear, to be very honest, that created that wall? And what are you willing to do to step into that new way of living and being, so that the standing stone that has stopped you from living in your wholeness can also be then a mirror to other people on the collective field, that we meet each other in the moment with love and kindness, and that collectively we understand the awareness of the presence of God. So the outwardly experiences of our states of consciousness then become the way that we shift in this world. And I love the Rumi quote that says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So to meet the present moment experience mindfully, to not reject or accept, but be present and bear witness, to understand that I have stones that I've allowed to stay in place, but let me listen to them. Like the little boy, the stones told me. What are the stones telling you right now? And then watch them dissolve. I mean, think about something from 20 or 30 years ago that you didn't think that you could do. And this may be even before you met New Thought and did the consciousness work and the spiritual practice. And what was within you that then said yes to that experience that's seeking to reveal itself, as opposed to the no of that false wall of condition? That I can stand in the midst of the chaos and still claim peace and joy as the deep abiding presence of God as my being that guides me then to take right action in a way that is coming from the higher wisdom. The experience will provide us with the wisdom if we're willing to listen. And on a collective level, with all that's happening, we have to meet each other in the present moment and listen. Getting away from stories that, that have been told. It's like, meet me in the moment. What in this moment do you need? What in this moment is seeking to reveal itself? What in this moment is calling forth for your good? So the standing stones are merely the circumstances. Remember, we're spirit in this human realm. There is suffering. There's birth, life, and death. That's just the cycle of the body temple. But our soul is eternal. Our light is eternal. Our life is eternal. So we bear witness to the human experience, but we allow that deep abiding wisdom that is the oneness of God revealing in every moment. But we can only do that by listening, by tuning in, by surrendering, giving it up to God. Giving it up to God's not saying, oh, whatever. It's like, I'm listening. I'm receiving. And the clarity reveals itself moment by moment, step by step, breath by breath. So here's your invitation, is to explore it this week. It's like, what standing stones have I created? What experiences in my life have created like this wall that keeps me separate from either my true self or separate from other people? What is seeking to reveal in that situation? That's where you do that life visioning process, where you anchor in that field of unconditional love and meditation. You ask, what is the highest good seeking to reveal itself? You ask those questions of what am I to become? What do I need to release, embrace? What else is seeking to reveal itself? But we surrender and listen. We are guided by something greater than us. And it literally will light the way. And we allow the standing stones to dissipate naturally. And in the collective, where can you add your consciousness, and then followed by conscious action to be that revelation of the transformation that's seeking to reveal that we do live and create a world that works for everyone. So just explore lightly. Speak truth to circumstances. Stand in those divine qualities, despite what the appearance or condition may be. And especially when our friends and our family members are having their own difficult experiences, we get to be that high watch. We get to be that consciousness. We don't do a metaphysical bypass or try to sometimes we're so afraid of suffering, we want to fix things. No, we allow them to have their experience while we hold the truth, and we combine this collective energy of love to lift all of us. So that's our invitation today, is to allow ourselves to access, like Frank said, that deepest, wisest inner guidance. And that is the presence of God that is your very life. We claim this good. We bear witness to the experience. But every day and every way, when we anchor in this awareness, and every day and every way, when we show up to our best and highest good, and then when we have those human moments, which trust me, I do, we just love ourselves with kindness. And when you need to call someone for prayer, call someone or send a prayer request, because sometimes when we're in the midst of the conditions, we can't hear the standing stones. So let someone know your spiritual truth while you're actually moving through whatever the experience is, staying present to it, but then knowing that you're anchored in something that is greater, seeking to reveal itself. Because in the human experience, it takes time. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But know that moment by moment, love is always present. Moment by moment, grace is always present. Moment by moment, joy is always present, and I can tap into it. And when I'm having my human difficult emotions, I just know that that deep, abiding peace, love, and joy is always present. And I simply allow myself to be. So listen to the standing stones, but don't give them power. The power and the presence that is God, that's what you rely on. Tune within. Meditate on the perfect life. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that life is my life now. And not perfection of the ego, but the perfection of spirit, the unity of the one mind that is God. And see how your life transforms, and see how you're that mirror to other people of transformation. So I invite you just to go within. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes and just imagine that you're standing in this field. And there's this wall, and the stone wall is seeking to reveal whatever wisdom. And just imagine then that you just surrender, that you open your arms and you tilt your head to the sky, and the sun is literally enveloping you in such love and joy and light and grace. And then in that moment, you look up and that wall has dissipated, because that which we call God is always present. So the power and the presence that is God is seeking to reveal itself in every single moment. It is our life, all of life. And I give thanks for the awareness that there's only one power, one love, one reality, one truth. And that despite the standing stones of our life that are merely messengers of maybe that which is seeking to reveal, that which is seeking to let go, that which is old and tired pattern that must just simply be laid down, that in that moment of surrendering to that which is greater, the heart open wide, the mind clear of any conditioning, the allowing of the consciousness of the absolute, that it can only be met in the present moment, allowing that light to reveal in every single situation the truth and the wisdom of the life of God as each one of us. So I give thanks for this opportunity to be an awakening, a catalyst of awakening to the good that is God, to see beyond the illusion, to be out in that field, as Rumi talks about, so I can stand in the power and in my personal life and in the collective shift that is happening, not only in our country, but in the world, that we call forth only love, that we call forth joy, that we call forth peace, and that we listen and surrender to that highest wisdom that is revealing, because I know that God is all that there is. My life is that, your life is that, all of life is that. So take a deep breath in and allow that light to infuse your beingness. Allow that love to circulate as who you are, and to know that the standing stones are impermanent. They will not last forever, but meet them in the moment in truth. Listen to what they seek to reveal, but only in love. and then be that place of infinite possibility of awareness for those in our lives. So I give thanks for this awareness. I give thanks for any wisdom that is revealed and has been revealed and continues to be revealed in each one of our lives. And I give thanks for the power that is love. And I give thanks to walk and talk and sing and dance in spirit. I give thanks that I can be the place of beauty, even when the world may seem like it's chaotic. And I can give thanks that in every moment, that love that is present is my touchstone of truth. So take another deep breath in. And on that exhale, just in deep gratitude, knowing that the law has accepted this, the law is demonstrating all this in our lives, that we let go. We let God, we let it be, and just let's affirm it together, seeing it so by saying, and so it is.